Hello everyone, my name is Derry and welcome back to day 12 of learning HTML. Okay, so yeah, we've learned a lot of things now. We can add a lot of components to our web page. We can add paragraphs, we can add headings, we can create lists, we can add images, we can add links, we can add tables, we can style our work, and we can add forms so we can collect users' inputs. So this class we're just going to be polishing off some of the knowledge we've already gained, and we're just going to be learning a couple more features that are just useful to know, and maybe one thing that we're going to be learning how to do that we see on very popular websites, but we just kind of take for granted and don't really realize what's going on. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a navigation bar. So I've just screenshotted a navigation bar and cut it, I guess, from a website, W3 Schools. This is a platform where you can learn about HTML. But yeah, I've taken a screenshot of what their navigation bar looks like. This is one of the more complicated navigation bars. But yeah, here's what the navigation bar is. So we can access the HTML part of the site, CSS part of the site, JavaScript part of the site, and then just a bunch of other things. Of course, they have their logo on it as well. So yeah, if that didn't make it clear, a navigation bar is an element within a web page that contains links to other sections of the web page. A navigation bar is commonly used to display horizontal, or is commonly displayed as horizontal links at the top of the page. A navigation bar is always placed before the main content of the page, just for it to be easier to access. And a navigation bar allows the user to once again easily navigate through the web page. Navigation bars are also sometimes just commonly referred to as nav bars for short. Okay, so we use the nav element, or the nav element defines a set of navigational links. The nav and the nav tag is short for navigation section. Yeah, so we use the nav tag specifically, although it doesn't really do much. We use it just so we can have something to call on when styling it with CSS. Okay, so here's pretty much what it looks like in the HTML text editor. I don't have too much to explain because we've already discussed the A tag. Here's just kind of what you can see it looks like. It's pretty much just our bunch of A tags basically formed as a list, and then we have the nav tag surrounding it. So in this case, the titles for my links are home, news, play, and contact. And this is what the web browser outputs. It just outputs it all on the same line as we would expect. And yeah, so we're kind of thinking now, okay, this does not look like the navigation bar you showed me from another website today, so what's going on? Well, the thing is, most navigation bars you see on websites are heavily styled with CSS. Remember, CSS is cascading style sheets, and remember that we use it to style our work. So yeah, this class isn't mainly focused on CSS because we're learning HTML, but we already know the basic syntax of CSS if we ever want to go out and use it ourselves. So yeah, this is just using a lot of CSS properties. I'm not going to get into this really right now. Maybe in a more advanced class when we've completely understood HTML, then we can move on to going into the pros of CSS. But anyways, yeah, with all this CSS, or not even really that much, we can get this type of output. So we can get the web browser, this type of web browser output. Of course, this one looks still kind of simple. It's because this isn't more of an example, and I don't really have a proper web page that needs a navigation bar like this. But yeah, this is just an example of what you could output. Of course, you could also put in your logo and other things and style it a lot more. This is just like a simple output, getting closer to what we see on other websites, because it's kind of more like a bar. Okay. So this is the next thing we're talking about. We've just we're kind of leaving navigation bars now because once again we're just polishing off a lot of knowledge, and now we're moving on to HTML colors just so we can understand it better. Okay, so something we need to know first is that HTML colors are most commonly expressed through hexadecimal values. So briefly, when we talked about the colors CSS property in our CSS class, we were using the color names itself like red, blue, and so on, etc. But in this case, or in most cases, people use hexadecimal values. So we're going to get into that. So a hexadecimal is a numerical system, and it is also commonly just called hex values. The hexadecimal numerical system only has 16 symbols, and it goes from 0 through F. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then it ends. So yeah, we can kind of compare this to the alphabet. Of course, that's not a numerical system, but that's the order it goes in. So yeah, it starts at A and it ends at Z. In this case, this system starts at 0 and it ends at F. So this is just the order. 0 represents the lowest value and F represents the highest. So something else we need to talk about as well is colors that are displayed in common, or is HTML, or sorry, is RGB. My apologies. So RGB is red, green, and blue. Something you need to know is that colors are displayed in combinations of red, green, and blue light, and these pretty much makes up all the colors we can see with our eyes. So the reason I said this is because with hex values, we can display any color we want within our HTML page. So the thing we didn't learn, because using colors like red and green, we can type in red and green, but then what if we want like a really dark green, or we want a really light green, or maybe like a purplish red? We can't really type that in, and our web browser won't recognize that as a real color, so we need to use hex values. So writing hex values in HTML. So once again, we use hex values in HTML for colors that don't really have a proper name, to make our web page even more unique and use a color that we specifically want. So hex values are once again using, of course, the hex values, and then it starts off with the hashtag symbol at the beginning, followed by either 3 or 6 hex characters, and these are the hex characters. Once again, it's the characters from the hexadecimal numerical system. Okay, so here are just some simple hex values you can know, and these are what the outputs are. You might have already known some of this. So we have 0, 0, 0, or 6 zeros is what creates black. 6 Fs is what creates white. And then all of these are just others you can know. It's not necessary to know this, because there are applications you can use to find specific colors you want. Because of course we can't be expected to memorize every single hex value and use it to get any color we want, if we aren't in that field, of course. Okay, yeah, so there are websites and programs that we can use to easily translate any color into an HTML hex value. So this is a one website example, html-color-codes.info. On this website, you basically have like a color palette, and you can select any color from there, and it'll return to you the hex value of it. And yeah, so this is the homework that we had for this live session. And yeah, you feel free to join the live session if you have any questions for me. And yeah, so hopefully you learned something new this class. Once again, we were just polishing off some info this class. And yeah, so this was Adere, and signing out.